Way back into the distant past, when Pete was like 15, he joined a mail-in movie club, 11 takes for pennies. And now cut to 2025, the movie club caught on to Pete's life, and now they want to punish him, so they trapped him in a room with a bunch of movie tapes. Pete didn't want to pay for the movies he got in the 90s. He'll have to watch random horror tapes and tell us about gore and probably some rape. Now keep in mind, Pete didn't pick. They use random numbers and a long list. He's got to get through every movie, one each day for the time we can't foresee. Helpful snowman roll call. Anxiety. Grouchiness. Entropy. Snow. If you're wondering why he did this song and other FAQ facts, just shut up and listen to this show, or fuck it, take a nice nap. It's Helpful Snowman Podoween 2025.
Today's movie, nay, today's film from the pile is a Midnight Faces, which is a silent film from 1926. So, you know, like, I got this one thrown into my cell unceremoniously, and I was like, well, hey, maybe, you know, at least maybe I'll get some culture here, right? I'm in this dungeon, I'm forced to watch these shitty movies, but, you know, it's like, well, maybe it's like if you were in a dungeon and they were forcing you to watch Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, I guess at least if I have to be here and I have to do this, maybe I'll have watched something that I'm like, I never would have watched that or picked it on my own, but now I have been forced to watch it, and I'm glad I did. This is a new business I'm going to open after this is all over. Pete's Movie Dungeon. Pete's Movie Hole. And we force you to stay in a cell to watch, like, your watch list of things. And it's the things from your watch list that you're like, that I look at it and I'm like, okay. I know you don't actually want to watch that, you know what I mean? I know it's a classic where you're like, this is a very heartfelt indie, you know, where the sound sucks. And, yeah, I'd be like, I know you don't actually want to watch the movie where it's just like the, whatever, 14 hours of the sunlight moving across a room through the blinds, you know, the experimental film. But now you will. Now you'll be forced to. Anyway, so I was like, well, maybe this will be good for me. And I'm here to tell everybody something, which is that I have discovered that piece of shit movies did exist back in the day. Which it kind of blew my emotions, because I always thought, like, I understand piece of shit movies existing today, right? Because it's so easy. Like, you click on a phone, you make a fucking movie, you're like, oh, god damn it, I filmed half of it in, you know, portrait format, and I'm gonna have to stretch it out, it's gonna look like shit. But, like, I always thought back in the day, like, if you made a movie in the 20s, that seems like it would be so difficult that you would have to have, like, a good idea. And you would be like, okay, we're really going to do this. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to make a Clerks in the 20s. And by that, I don't mean that Clerks is bad. I mean, like, you would have to have an epic scope of movie, I thought. You know what I mean? You'd have to tell a story that you're like, we're sure this is going to resonate. You know, like, you make movies based on classic novels and stuff. I just thought it would be so hard to make a movie back then, and, like, so much work and so expensive. So I wouldn't think you would make a movie unless you had, like, an idea. And I was wrong. I'm here to admit I was wrong. And people did make shitty cash grab movies back in the day. So Midnight Faces is basically a haunted house kind of thing. Maybe a little bit of a Nosferatu ripoff. A guy inherits a house from an uncle he's never heard of, which is like the most classic of classic Scooby-Doo ass setups, right? Although I do thanks to some family difficulties, have a couple uncles I've never really spoken with as an adult. So, like, if you're listening to this out there, weirdos who want to trick me into a haunted mansion, I am a pretty good mark. You know what I mean? It is possible. You know, if someone was like, your estranged uncle had a house in somewhere in Illinois, and, you know, if you can stay there for one night, you can have it. And I'd be like, maybe. But I feel like that sort of scam, too, has gone away in favor of much easier scams that can be done from the computer. You know, just steal your credit card number. I mean, sure, modern conveniences are nice, but it is sad that we've lost touch with the old ways. You know, it's like some guy just sends you text messages and somehow gets all your social security number. And we've lost the craftsmanship that goes into a old uncle left you a haunted house kind of thing. So our hero goes to the house, and a bunch of stuff happens. People kind of run around. There's a few different characters. There's notably a scaredy cat black butler sort of guy. And I guess this was a thing back in the day, which is like you would have a black character in your horror movie who's like comically scared of things and overacting, you know, and a lot of doing some like Abbott and Costello kind of stuff. Which is weird in this movie, though, because, I mean, I'm watching it 100 years later, right? But in my opinion, the butler guy is 100% correct, and he's not overreacting, right? He is reacting properly to what's going on, which appears to be ghosts and monsters and, like, real paranormal shit. You know what I mean? And then everyone else discovers, like, oh my god, there is paranormal stuff happening. And it's not like any of those assholes later apologizes. And they're like, you know what, you were right. I thought you were just, like, mugging for a camera that's not here because we're talking in the reality of the movie right now, but I was completely wrong. I also would have been quite terrified, and I no longer believe your reaction was overreaction. But of course, that's not going to happen, you know. I guess this is my portion where I demand justice on this show. There's also a Chinese guy who I say with that kind of affect because I'm pretty sure he wasn't actually Chinese because he looked a lot like Wilford Brimley. So I think it was a guy in, I guess we'll call Chinese face. But it's not like he was doing a goofy Chinese accent. I mean, it is a silent movie. And they didn't make his dialogue, you know. We don't need to go into the ways they would do that about urinating in someone's cola. They you know, his dialogue when it's written on the screen is whatever. English. Unaccented English. He also didn't do anything particularly Chinese, which I don't even know what that was. Probably a good thing. You know what I mean? It's probably a good thing he's not like, well, I'll just be in the kitchen folding fortune cookies or whatever. They did need a Chinese guy because a later plot twist is that the uncle wrote out a will in English, and that helps prove that the will is not legitimate because the Chinese guy knows him, right? From his travels or whatever. And the Chinese guy is like, this man could not have written this because he can only write in Chinese. Which, let me just lay this out. It's insane. That an American would speak fluent English and speak fluent Chinese, but only be able to write in Chinese. That makes no sense to me. This is like a form of, and he's an American. He is not Chinese. He made a Chinese friend who, you know, I guess through his ability to write and speak in Chinese and not write in English or something. This is a form of like learning disability that I'm not currently aware of. But I guess now that we're not taking Tylenol while pregnant, we can assume this will just vanish on its own. So anyway, here's the basic plot. The hero and his lawyer show up to the house. Then the Chinese guy and some other people arrive, including a guy they wheel into the house who appears to be completely comatose and they say is paralyzed. And then some shrouded figure who kind of looks like Alec Baldwin from The Shadow chases everyone around. If you don't remember that movie, I only vaguely remember it and was like, I don't understand why his face changes shape when he turns into the shadow, but okay. Turns out the uncle is not dead. He's just being held captive in another part of the house or something, which does help me understand the value of this house. I'm like, if you can have a house so large that someone could be captive in it and not be discovered for a couple days, that's some house. Anyways, all a plot by the lawyer, who is conspiring with the paralyzed guy, who is not paralyzed and never was. And I guess the idea was to scare everyone off and take possession of the house somehow. Which makes no goddamn sense, because if they never brought our hero, the inheritor, there in the first place, he wouldn't have even known it existed. So I don't understand why they would need to scare him off. They could have just never brought him there, killed the uncle, problem solved. Problem solved before it's even created. There is no problem. Just kill the uncle. The guy never shows up. Done. Done and done. There are a couple standout things in this movie. Two things that for me, I don't know. Here are the two things that made the movie for me. And as I'm about to tell you this, I realize how razor thin this first one is. So one of the things I like is two cops show up, and they're kind of in various scenes. And one of them is constantly eating walnuts, which he shells with his teeth, which does impress me because as someone who seems to create a dental issue by the simple act of continuing to be alive, the idea of shelling a walnut with my teeth is like, that's insane. I just got done going to the dentist. Here's what's fucked up about having teeth. If you don't brush or floss enough, you know what I mean? You'll cause problems. You'll have gum recession. You'll this and that. If you brush and floss too much or too hard, you'll have the same problems. And I'm like, how is this life? How is this a life that anyone can tolerate? Where it's just like, you can't do it too much, but you can't do it not too much. You have to be basically an expert in this procedure in order to do it correctly. You know what I mean? And you got to do it right like every time. I mean, come on, man. So anyway, it's also funny because the walnut guy, like as he's investigating the house, he comes across a bowl of walnuts and he just starts stuffing them all in his pockets. You know, he's like, I've never been one to leave a good walnut behind. So, you know, it's comical because he's been talking about how much he likes walnuts and his partner's like, will you cool it with the walnuts already? And they go in the house and there just happens to be a big heaping bowl of walnuts. And you're like, all right, somebody put something in this movie. And, you know, now that I'm describing it, I mean, it's not that funny. A guy who appreciates a good walnut, you know? That's sort of how devoid this movie was of anything. I was like, well, at least they laid something in there, I guess. The other thing that I liked is the soundtrack. The music is kind of awesome, right? And it should be public domain, I think, because the movie's like 100 years old, or it will be in 2026. So I'm going to run the risk of laying it in the background of this episode, and let's hope we get away with it. It gave me an appreciation of the Universal monster movies. Like, you know, you watch something like this, right, and you realize, like, wow, those movies had amazing sets and, like, a lot of atmosphere. And, like, even though the technical side was limited, you could tell people who made them cared and were trying to make something. So let this be a lesson to us all, and mostly to me. Just because something is a silent film from the olden days does not mean anyone gave enough of a shit about it to make something decent. The rating system I decided for today is based on how good of a care I would take if I had the negatives for this movie, if I had the film reel. You know, and maximum effective way to take care of it would be to like put it in a salt mine, right? Isn't that where they put? It's like if you have a cave that's like full of salt, so it's really dry, but the temperature is really consistent. That's where you put it if you really care about it. So, you know, from a scale where that's like the ultimate storage of it, I would probably keep this. I probably would have put this in the back seat of my old car, just to the elements. You know, it's in a car, but you know, that's worse when it's hot. And it probably would have still been there, and I just would have forgotten about it when my car got towed away for charity. That's about how good of care I would have taken of the negative of this movie. And when it happened, I would have been like, ah, shit. But, you know, easy come, easy go.